Love versus life goals. When two people want different futures. Reddit story. Have you ever loved someone deeply, but realized that no matter how much you love them, you're just not compatible anymore? It's one of the hardest things to admit, but sometimes love isn't enough to make a relationship work. This is the story of Sophia and Adam. They were together for 3 years, but as time passed, Sophia realized that their different goals in life were starting to tear them apart. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Sophia and Adam had been together for 3 years. They met at work during a project and instantly hit it off. Their relationship started out strong. They were both driven, passionate, and dreamed about their future together. At first, it seemed like they had everything in common, both wanted to travel, explore new things, and live an exciting life. But over time, things started to change. Sophia began to notice the differences that weren't so obvious at first. While Sophia loved her job, she wanted to eventually work part-time, focus on her passions, and have more flexibility to travel the world. Adam, however, was committed to his career and wanted to climb the corporate ladder, working long hours to secure his position. He didn't understand why Sophia wasn't as ambitious as he was and why she wasn't as focused on her career. They had different priorities. Adam was happy with the routine he had built: his steady job, his friends, and his life in the city. Sophia, on the other hand, felt suffocated by the rigid structure of her daily life. She wanted more freedom, more adventure, and less of the constant pressure of work. The more Sophia tried to talk to Adam about it, the more she realized that their goals were incompatible. She loved Adam deeply, but the life he wanted was not the life she envisioned for herself. She began to feel like she was stuck, living a life that wasn't her own. She tried to ignore the feeling, telling herself that love was enough, but deep down, she knew that she wasn't happy. She felt torn between her love for Adam and her longing for something more. This story is one that many of us can relate to. We've all been in relationships where, despite the love, we've realized that our paths in life don't align anymore. Sophia's story is about recognizing that love alone isn't always enough to make a relationship work. Sometimes, the love you feel for someone isn't enough to overcome the differences in your goals, values, and desires. Adam and Sophia loved each other, but they wanted different things. Their individual goals were incompatible. Adam wanted stability, success in his career, and a settled life. Sophia, however, craved flexibility, freedom, and the opportunity to pursue her passions on her own terms. The emotional weight of living in a relationship where your dreams are no longer in sync can be overwhelming. No matter how much you care for someone, you can't force yourself to want the same things if your goals in life are fundamentally different. Love requires compromise, yes, but it also requires growth together. If one person is constantly compromising their own dreams, it can lead to resentment and unhappiness. Sophia tried to make it work for as long as she could, but she eventually realized that she was sacrificing her own happiness for the sake of the relationship. She couldn't continue pretending that the life she was living was the one she wanted. And that's when she knew it was time to let go. This story resonates with so many people, especially those who have been in relationships where love is still present, but personal goals have diverged. It's not always easy to admit that you and your partner no longer want the same things, but sometimes it's necessary for your own growth. You Choosing My Future commented, "I've been in a relationship where we loved each other, but our futures were so different. It was heartbreaking to realize, but I had to choose my own path over staying in a relationship that wasn't aligned with my dreams." 41.9K likes, "Choosing yourself is a difficult decision, but it's the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for your partner. Yuo no fulfilling. My dreams shared. I stayed in a relationship for years, hoping that we would eventually want the same things. But I realized that the more time passed, the more I had to ignore my own goals. Walking away was the hardest, but most necessary choice. 38.3K likes. Sometimes, staying in a relationship that isn't fulfilling for both people only prevents personal growth. It's okay to let go and choose a different path. You Following My Passion wrote, I loved them, but the longer we stayed together, the more I realized that I was putting my dreams on hold. Love can't replace the need for personal fulfillment. I had to choose my own happiness. 34.7K likes. Love isn't just about being together. It's about supporting each other's growth and dreams. Sometimes, that means parting ways to find your true happiness. Yuda's Independent Journey said, I loved them deeply, but we were heading in completely different directions in life. It was painful to let go, but I had to choose my own happiness and pursue what I truly wanted. 32.1K likes. Choosing your own path isn't easy, especially when you love someone. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to let go and allow both of you to grow separately. Sophia's story reminds us that love, while important, is not always enough to make a relationship work. When your dreams no longer align, no matter how much you care for each other, sometimes the best decision is to let go. It's hard to admit, but sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your partner is to part ways, allowing each person to follow their own dreams and find their happiness. I loved you, but once I found out the truth, I couldn't go back. Have you ever loved someone with all your heart, but then discovered something about them that shattered your trust forever? Betrayal can hurt more than anything, and it can change the course of a relationship. This is the story of Olivia and Jack. They loved each other deeply, but one secret would change everything. It wasn't that Olivia fell out of love with Jack, but the truth she uncovered was too much to ignore. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Olivia and Jack had been together for 2 years. They met through mutual friends at a party, and from the start, their connection was undeniable. They had similar interests, shared goals, and spent hours talking about their future together. It seemed perfect, or at least Olivia thought it was. But as time went on, Olivia began to notice some changes. Jack started coming home late from work, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. He was more distant, spending more time with his friends and less with her. His phone was always locked, and when they were together, he was often distracted. At first, Olivia brushed it off as nothing. Maybe he was just busy with work. Maybe he was stressed, she thought. But then, one evening, while Jack was in the shower, Olivia found his phone on the table. She hesitated, but something in her gut told her to look. When she opened his messages, she found a conversation that would change everything. There, in black and white, were texts from another woman, flirtatious and intimate messages that Jack had been hiding for months. Olivia's heart sank. She felt like the world was crashing down around her. The person she loved, the person she trusted, had been lying to her. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The truth was too painful. When Jack came out of the shower, Olivia confronted him. At first, he denied it. Then he admitted everything. He apologized, saying it was a mistake, and begged for her forgiveness. But Olivia knew that forgiveness wasn't enough. The trust was shattered, and no amount of apology could fix it. She loved Jack, but she couldn't pretend that everything was okay anymore. The betrayal was too deep. She couldn't go back. Betrayal is one of the deepest wounds a person can experience. It doesn't just break trust, it breaks your entire perception of the person you love. Olivia's story is not about falling out of love. It's about recognizing that love alone isn't enough when trust is broken. Jack's betrayal hurt Olivia not because she didn't love him, but because she realized she could never look at him the same way again. The emotional damage caused by betrayal doesn't heal quickly. It lingers, it festers, and it makes it almost impossible to rebuild a relationship. Forgiveness is a powerful thing, but it can't erase the damage done by betrayal. In any relationship, trust is the foundation. Without it, the entire structure of the relationship crumbles. No matter how much Olivia loved Jack, she couldn't continue living in a relationship where trust was no longer there. Sometimes, the hardest decision is to walk away, even when you still love the person, because staying would mean sacrificing your happiness and emotional well-being. Jack's apology wasn't enough for Olivia to move forward. She had to choose herself and her own peace of mind, no matter how much it hurt. Love doesn't mean you have to accept everything, especially when your trust has been broken. This story speaks to so many people on Reddit, because betrayal isn't something that can be easily forgiven. Once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild, and sometimes it's simply not worth trying. You Betrayed Heart commented, "I've been in a relationship where I loved them deeply, but once I found out they had been lying to me, I couldn't forgive them. No matter how much they apologized, the damage was too much to overcome." 43.2K likes. Sometimes, forgiveness doesn't mean staying in the relationship. Sometimes, it means choosing to let go for your own emotional health. You Healing From. Heartbreak shared. I tried to forgive my ex, but every time I looked at them, all I saw was the betrayal. It's so hard to heal after something like that, but in the end, I had to let go. 39.8K likes. Healing from betrayal is never easy. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is walk away and take the time you need to heal. You Letting Go for Self-Love wrote, "Love is powerful, but trust is everything. Once that's broken, there's no going back. I had to walk away to preserve my peace and dignity." 35.4K likes. Self-love often means making the tough decision to walk away, even if it's painful, for your own emotional safety. You Starting Over Again said, "I loved them, but after I found out the truth, I knew I couldn't go back. I had to put myself first for the first time in a long while." 32.7K likes. Sometimes, choosing yourself over someone you love is the bravest and most important decision you can make. Olivia's story is a painful reminder that trust is the cornerstone of any relationship. When that trust is broken, love alone cannot save the relationship. It's okay to walk away, even when you still love the person. Sometimes, the hardest choice is to choose yourself, to let go, and to start anew. I still care about you, but I can't forgive what you did. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Have you ever loved someone with all your heart, but discovered that they had betrayed you? It's a pain that cuts deeper than any physical wound. This is the story of Samantha and David. They were together for 3 years, and for the longest time, everything seemed perfect. But one moment, one discovery, changed everything. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Samantha and David had been inseparable for 3 years. They met at a mutual friends gathering, and the connection was instant. They talked for hours that night, shared their dreams, and couldn't stop laughing. Their chemistry was undeniable, and soon they started dating. In the beginning, everything was perfect. They enjoyed each other's company, went on adventures together, and built a life that seemed full of promise. David was always there for Samantha, and she admired his ambition, his drive, and his dedication. But over time, Samantha started noticing small things that didn't add up. David began coming home late more often, sometimes smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. His phone was constantly face down or locked when they were together. Samantha tried to ignore it, telling herself it was just her imagination, but a feeling deep down told her that something was wrong. One day, while David was in the shower, Samantha picked up his phone. She hesitated for a moment but decided to check. She saw messages from another woman, flirtatious texts, and intimate conversations that David had been hiding. Her heart sank, and a sense of dread filled her chest. She knew the truth now, and there was no turning back. David came out of the shower, and Samantha confronted him. At first, he denied everything, but eventually he admitted that he had been cheating. He apologized profusely, said it was a mistake, and begged for her forgiveness. But Samantha's world had already crumbled. She still cared about David, but the betrayal was too much for her to bear. The trust had been broken, and no amount of apology could undo the hurt she felt. This is a painful truth that many people face in relationships, loving someone but not being able to forgive their betrayal. Samantha's love for David was real, but the trust was shattered beyond repair. Betrayal isn't just a mistake. It's a violation of the most basic foundation of a relationship, trust. When trust is broken, it becomes nearly impossible to rebuild, no matter how much love is still there. In this case, David's apology wasn't enough to heal the wound. Samantha loved him, but she realized that she couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when her heart was broken. Forgiveness isn't just about saying, "I forgive you." It's about truly being able to move past the hurt and betrayal. For Samantha, she couldn't forgive what David had done, and that made it impossible for her to continue in the relationship. Love, while important, isn't always enough to keep a relationship intact. Trust and mutual respect are the pillars that hold any relationship together. Without them, even the deepest love can't survive. Samantha's decision to walk away wasn't easy, but it was necessary for her emotional well-being. Sometimes, we have to make the hardest decision to choose ourselves over staying in a relationship that hurts us. This story resonates with so many people who have faced betrayal in their relationships. It's not just about love. It's about trust, respect, and self-worth. When those things are broken, the relationship can't go on. You Betrayed Heart commented, "I've been in a relationship where my partner cheated on me. I loved them deeply. But once I found out the truth, I couldn't look at them the same way again. It hurt too much, and I had to walk away." 42.8K likes, "Betrayal doesn't just destroy a relationship. It destroys how you see the person you once trusted. Choosing yourself is sometimes the hardest, but most important decision." You Learning to Let Go shared, "I stayed in a relationship after betrayal, thinking love would make everything better. But I realized that staying in a broken relationship wasn't healthy for me. I had to leave to heal." 39.2K likes, "Sometimes, the best thing you can do for both of you is to let go, even when you still love them." You Finding Peace again wrote, "It's painful to walk away from someone you love, but when trust is broken, staying isn't an option anymore. I had to choose my own peace over staying with someone who hurt me." 35.1 Ulki likes, "Choosing your peace is one of the most important decisions you can make for your own well-being." You Moving Forward with Hope said, "I loved them, but I couldn't live in a relationship where my trust was shattered. Walking away was painful, but it was the best decision for me in the end. 32.6K likes, sometimes walking away is the only way forward, not just for the relationship, but for your own mental and emotional health. Samantha's story reminds us that trust is the most important foundation of any relationship. When trust is broken, no matter how much love you have, it's nearly impossible to continue. Choosing yourself, even when you love someone, is sometimes the hardest, but the most important decision you can make. You deserve a relationship built on trust, respect, and mutual love. And sometimes, that means letting go.